So this is pure demo, and the aim is a couple of things really. One is that we can talk about this stuff all day, but actually seeing is believing. And while many of you will already have experimented with some or all of what we're about to show you, many of you will not have seen it for real. And so this is also, in a sense, a level-setting exercise just to bring everybody up to the point of, oh, that's what so-and-so was talking about. Oh, that's what they meant. And hopefully to, as I say, seeing is believing. However, unfortunately, much that I try and include everything that I can in this demo that gradually moves along, it's obsolete as soon as I've done anything to it. And Alex just made a good job of making it obsolete again, or at least within a few days. So there are bits of it that have been hastily cobbled together, bits of it that are a bit raw, maybe in a few bits of it that won't actually work properly, but we'll do our best. I've brought my charming assistant up here to talk, smile, do a song and dance out, whatever he needs to cover those bits where it goes quiet, because I'm waiting for something. Divert attention away from the nasty bits. So, here we go. First of all, then, a quick tour. I'm not sure I like the resolution. Is that working? Yeah, I guess that's working. Okay. A quick tour. Basically, it's. No, I don't like the resolution. Hang on a second. Can I do better than that? Let's just see whether that's really right.
That's all I could get yesterday.
Okay, that's fair enough. Then I probably should reopen a few things. No, I'll tell you what, we'll just manage for a moment, and we'll reopen a few things later. So what I've got here is our fundamental sort of on-prem setup to start with. Okay, so this is very much a hybrid identity system of the kind that I talked about yesterday and that various other people have mentioned. So no big surprises to find that Forefront Identity Manager is in there somewhere, and I'll explain a little bit more about what these are all about. I'll probably spend quite a lot of time just resizing things, but anyway, let's just do this. But where it all starts is with an HR system. So we've got a little HR system here. Many of you will have seen this before. It's the one we use in our training courses. It's not, of course, a real system, but it's got some people in it. So I'll point out a few people. We've got somebody called Denise Smith here. Because her login is Denise S, we tend to know her as Denise's. And Denise's, you can see she reports to somebody. She has a mobile phone number. She's in a region. Importantly, she's in a department. She's in the HR department. If we take a look at somebody else down here, we've got somebody called Peter here. He's in the sales department. And I'm also going to draw attention to Amy here, Amy Rusko, Amy R., who is in the IT department. The relevance of that is that when that's been synchronized through FIM, of course, which is connected to a number of sources, it's picking up data from the HR system, and it's synchronizing it with the FIM portal, which from a sync perspective is just another system, and it's synchronizing to an Active Directory and probably other places as well. So if we go and look at the portal, we'll find Denise is represented here as well. It's going to be very annoying, isn't it?
Yes.
But we'll try and improve on it as we go along.
From this part here.
Yes, you can't help, can you? No. So here's Denise, but I think the resolution is working up there. So here's Denise represented here, and it might be that the portal is authoritative for some information, like maybe those dates. It might be that this is the right place to change this data, and it might be that it's not authoritative and it's actually driven from somewhere else. And you'd expect that to be represented in the interface by it being read-only or whatever. Importantly, I can give her an Office 365 license. By checking that box, I'm saying apply that license in AAD. Hold that thought for a moment, and we'll go and look at what Active Directory knows about her. This is just a quick tour just to get us going. So we've got another VM here. These VMs, by the way, are representative of our on-prem system, but they are, in fact, just Hyper-V VMs in our own EA, in our own Azure EA. We're just waiting for this to wake up for some reason. And what we're going to see here is that she's represented in Active Directory, but also that we've got AD Sync, which is, if you like, the new version of DirSync. We've got AD Sync synchronizing her with Azure AD. So she should be able to use the same UPN to log on locally as well as to log on in the cloud. And
I'm supposed to tell a joke at this point or something.
we'll say something
The other
useful.
one about the cloud project.
I don't know why it keeps losing this and taking so long to regain it, but it does come back eventually, or always has done anyway. There we go. So if we look in Active Directory User Computers, familiar kind of place, and we look in the HR OU, she's been put in that OU exactly because she's in HR. She's a well-formed user here. She'll have some memberships of groups. Where do those group memberships come from? Well, they're being managed nicely over here in FIM. And if we look at security groups, we'll see we've got a bunch of those. Some of those will be query-based, so because she's in a department, she gets put in a group, or because she's just a member of staff, or because she's an O365 user. There'll be distribution groups, which she may have been put in manually, perhaps on an approval basis, or again, maybe automatically, maybe because she reports to this other person, Jenny G. So we've got those groups appearing in our AD. Then we've got the synchronization service appearing again here. And you'll see it looks somewhat similar, but it's a little different. You don't configure it in the same way. It's still got connectors, but it's just got these two connectors, so it's connecting your local AD to your Azure AAD. It's got a metaverse, and we could see who's in the metaverse, and we would find Denise in there somewhere, and we'd be able to look at whatever the important attributes are there that are being synchronized. But what you won't find is the configuration in the same way if you're familiar with it. That appears elsewhere. And where am I going to find it? Because I'm not. That's me. How do I get to Start Menu? Yeah. How do I get to Start Menu without using the way I normally do?
Well, like that.
Like what?
Right-hand border, charms bar.
Yeah.
Just hover over the right-hand border. Hover. Without a menu.
Come on.
Go up to the top right-hand corner. There it is, the start. Charm.
Right. And what I'm looking for is the rules, synchronization rules editor. So quite a difference here if you're not familiar with this. There was some discussion yesterday, and you saw the slide again today, of the three types of current synchronization engine moving into one. So this is, if you like, the future. If we take a look at that, there are lots and lots of rules here, but if we take a particular rule, let's take this one here, user common. So this is, as would be suggested, this is something to do with the way that all users are handled. And again, without going into a lot of detail, because not everybody's interested in this, you won't be surprised to find that there's a scoping filter and there's a join rule. But I think that the thing that everybody can get a handle on is the idea of transformations. So here we can decide what attributes in one system are going to map up with what attributes in another system using simple functions and so on, simple transformations to make that happen. So now we're in a position to take a piece of data out of Azure AD, out of AD, and make it synchronized with Azure AD, and vice versa. And you've got the kind of things you'd expect. You can trim spaces out. You can take the left-hand or the right-hand portion of a string or whatever, and quite a rich set of functions. Now, corresponding with that, we'll just take a look at something else that looks a little bit like that in a moment. What I'm going to do now is let's have some IE here. I'm going to go to, as an administrator now, I'm in our demo tenant. So we can look at users, and no surprise to find amongst them, would be on the next page, wouldn't it, to find Denise. There she is. And there'll be various attributes of Denise which have come through, including groups she belongs to and so on. So we can look at groups. And she will turn out to be a member. And these are the same groups, the same name groups that you've seen. So these groups are now being used for all sorts of things. Well, what sort of things could we use them for? We could use them for giving access to applications, for example. So if we've got a bunch of applications and we want to make an application available to a group of people, we could do that. Let's focus on a particular one here, Salesforce, and look at how that's been configured. So first of all, it's configured for single sign-on. That means that when she goes to the My Apps page, she'll get a bunch of apps she can get to. Salesforce will be one of them. She clicks through and she gets straight to Salesforce. But it's also configured for user provisioning. And we've got an administrative account that allows us to do that, so that when a new person arrives in AAD, if that person has been assigned, then she'll be provisioned. And in this case, we can see the credentials. And I'm looking in the right place, James.
Depends what you're looking for.
I'm looking for the attributes.
No, you're not.
Get out.
But this is the example of the few click setup that I was talking about. So comparatively, if we were going to write script or whatever to push into Salesforce using APIs, it would be considerably harder than what you just saw, where we just give it an admin account and let it get on with it. But this is newish.
Newish is, do you want to talk through it?
Well, yes, a very similar user interface to what we just saw in the AAD sync attribute editor. We're now in a position to do downstream attribute modifications and transformations on our way during provisioning into, for example, Salesforce. In this case, we can do attribute mappings with similar sorts of functions to those available in our AAD sync. So we're seeing the evolution of the cloud sync fabric in the same direction entirely as the on-premises AAD sync stuff, and similar sorts of capabilities, similar sorts of functional language.
So as an example, the default way that an alias was put together didn't appeal to me at all. It just took the left 8 characters of the UPN, which often included an @ so I just changed that, and it flowed through, immediately applied, all very good. So that means that we would expect that Denise, if we were to log in as her, using the same UPN that she could use on-premise, which is also her email address, and actually where we want her to get to. Yeah, so this is the My Apps portal. We would expect then that she can get to Salesforce for all the reasons that we've just seen. This is not a real Salesforce, it's just a free dev tenant, so we're not going to see anything exciting going on there, but at least you get the idea that she can get to it. There we go. So that worked. And, well, I think that'll do for now. Actually, she is no, we won't take it any further than that. And just for fun, let's take a look. Can she get to Twitter? Twitter's been set up in a different way. This is a single account which everybody uses. And the nice thing about that, and it is actually, you can see that that's live, and that's actually what was on the Twitter wall. So this is the Oxford Computer Group one. And the nice thing about that is that you can make this available through the apps panel to a group of people, like, say, all the people in marketing. But when they leave and they're no longer able to log on, they can't get to it anymore because they never actually knew the credentials. She can also get to, well, we've put together a little White Pages app just to show a custom developed app. And this app, what it does is it simply draws information through the Graph API. So depending on who you are, first of all, we've got single sign-on. It finds out who she is, finds out what department she's in. That gives, effectively, is a claim that is used to decide what information she should be allowed to see. She's allowed to see the list of people. She can perhaps look at some more details about somebody, and she gets a level of detail that's appropriate for her. She's in HR, so not only does she get the sort of basic user details, as it happens, she gets group memberships and so on as well, because she's got a reasonably high level of access. And if we have time, and if we log on as other people, you'll see that different experience coming up. So that is just a nice example of the Graph API being used to pull that information out of AAD in interesting ways. She can also get to Office 365. She will have an Exchange account there, so she can use Outlook. We'll just have a quick look what's going on here in SharePoint. I'm not very good at driving this, so what I really meant to do was to get to SharePoint, which I'm going to try and do. I'll do it that way, all right. Get there in the end. And if we go to the team site here, she will have sites available to her which depend on all those group memberships that we were managing right back on-prem in FIM. And if we eventually get there, did I not click that maybe?
Getting there.
Yeah, there we go. So because she's in HR, she gets to see that particular site. Maybe other people see it, but maybe she only sees certain things. So we've got some confidential documents and so on here. Perhaps we'll come back to that a little later, depending on how much time we've got. So what I'm going to do now is live a little dangerously by going right back to the beginning and seeing what happens when we add a new person. So traditionally, we would have said day in the life of an identity. New person arrives, we put them into the HR system, and we expect them to appear everywhere they need to be, in the groups they should be in, provisioned with the various apps that they need, and so on. That's the aim. We'll see what happens. I'm afraid we've got to go through this again. So it's time for another song and dance act. Oh, here we go. Maybe. Yeah. Okay, so we need that HR system. We also need to kick off a process which will synchronize. A little bit crude, this is not how we would do it for real, but for the purposes of a demo, I'll just leave that synchronizing in the background. It's just running a batch file to do a few things. To prove that I'm not cheating, I want a name that begins with A because it's just going to be at the top of the list. So give me a name that I might not have used before. Oh, sorry? Abel. Okay, so we'll call this person Abel. That's the wrong way around, really, but anyway. He can be in the EMEA region, and he'll be in, what should we say? He'll be in sales, and will be a, what should we say, a large, that'll do, up there, in large account sales. There we go. Give him a number, because this will turn out to be useful. It's actually my number. And we'll save those changes. So that is the primary authority for an object in the system. The authority for attributes will come from all over the place, and all of that will be pulled together in the meta directory. So as I say, the synchronization manager, as it runs, will be reading that data and expressing it, first of all, over here in the FIM portal, where we can augment that data. So let's see whether anybody has turned up. And not yet. So a little bit of encouragement over here. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Oop. And try that again. And again. There we go. So Abel's arrived, and Abel's been given an account name, Abel A, because we hadn't had that one before, so we're able to use that one very simply. And amongst the information, I'm going to make a choice here to give this person an O365 license. Of course, it may be that we give everybody an O365 license, and that could have been done that way too. The only reason we do this is because we've got a limited number of demo licenses, so we don't want to give them to everybody that's in the system. So what's going to happen as the synchronization goes on is that information becomes available in AD.
Another short pause.
There'll be another short pause. But it's a good time to allow the synchronization to take place in the background. There's a lot of synchronization has to go on. So first of all, there's the FIM synchronization, then there's the AD to Azure synchronization, and then there's internal synchronization that we know not what of that's going on inside Azure. The whole thing could take many minutes to occur. And in fact, there is a body of thought that I'm completely mad to even think that I can do this live and have it come out the other end. So we can take a look in the metaverse here. This is the second metaverse, okay? This is the one that goes with AD Sync. And I don't see that Abel has arrived, which is just means we have to wait for that to happen. It will arrive sooner or later. Do we want to kick the process? It takes
3 minutes until it starts again. So.
Well, what I will do while we're waiting for that to happen, because I quite kind of expected this, I'm going to load up another browser. Just it helps to have a different browser so that I can log on as somebody else. I'm going to log on as another type of user. This user comes up. Is going to be an IT user. They're going to have a slightly different experience because obviously they're in different groups, and those different groups are going to give them different permissions. Just by the way, we haven't seen it yet, but many of those groups were distribution groups. They will turn out to be distribution groups in O365 as well. So I'm going to be Amy R., one of the person I mentioned at the beginning. And so she's going to get perhaps exactly the same things, perhaps different things. She may or not have been able to get to Twitter. As it happens, we probably let everybody do that. She can go to Salesforce, just the same. But if she goes to the White Pages app, because she's got different characteristics, as we pull claims out of Azure AD, she's going to get a different experience too. Abel, by the way, has turned up now. But if we take a look at this person here, for example, you'll see now that she's additionally got licensing information and other kinds of assignments. And that's because this person's in IT. So this is the kind of stuff that you can pull with the Graph API. So Abel's turned up. That means that if we were to go back and look at this, we should be able to refresh that, see that Abel is there, and we'd be able to tell what it is that's been kept and what's flowed through to Azure AD and so on. But the rather more obvious way to do that is just to go into Azure AD as, as an admin. And let's look at users. And here is Abel. Okay. So now we can start administering Abel if we want to, but the whole idea that a lot of this stuff has been done just right out of the box, as it were. I mean, just all automated. So let's do the obvious thing of let's close this and sign out as Amy and sign in as Abel. So Abel will be our third type of user in sales rather than abela@oxforddemo.com. And
this raises the question of how Abel gets his password, and depending on the scenario that we're demonstrating at a given time, there are some quite nice scenarios you can do using self-service password reset as the first thing he ever does. So we typed in a mobile phone number. It would have been possible for him to have said, well, I don't have a password, can't access my account, and he'll get a text message to his mobile phone number, which we've already got, to enable him to do a password reset as the very first thing he ever does. And then we don't have any of the issues around managers having passwords well in advance of staff arriving, or managers having had an email but they can't find it, or going straight into a help desk password reset scenario, which may or may not be what we want to do, but we can use the self-service password reset stuff. We happen in this case to have used a well-known password that he got told by his manager, but there are other scenarios that you can demonstrate.
Let's show the first part of that. So he can register here for password reset right away. The way that we've configured this, he's got to do one of these things. He's either got to provide a phone number or email. Actually, the phone came through, the mobile phone that I put in. That could be changed, or we could just say, verify me right now, in which case, with a bit of luck, that will come up here. And we can verify it just to show you that, but we don't need to necessarily go through. And there it is. I don't know, you just have to trust me that it's what it says.
I think Azure will tell you if that's what it says.
Certainly tell me if it isn't. And That's verified. So that's set up, and he can do this. If he forgets his password, he can redo that. What about these applications then? Let's really push the boat out and see if he got provisioned into Salesforce. Now, assuming that this works, he's not only been, which it has, not only has he been provisioned to Salesforce, as it happens as a chatter-free user, but it doesn't matter. You choose the role, and if you've configured things well in Salesforce, that's going to give him the permissions and so on that he needs. So you choose the role, you flow the attributes as you saw that you want. So this is all pretty good stuff. Where next? So next,
Can you
of
click
course,
on his profile here and just show the mapping that you talked about? You've gone away from it now.
in there.
In there.
I'm sorry. Yes, good idea. So, except I don't know how to do that.
And his name, label, top left. Yeah.
And are we actually seeing anything
A lot
there?
of data about that, do you?
We're not seeing a lot of data there. If we go in as Denise again, we can see that, and because she's the administrator. But anyway, okay. What else might we do from here? So the groups and the user data also flows through to Office 365. So let's see if he's got an account yet. This may take a little longer to happen because there's yet another process of synchronization internally which has to take place. We'll be good with that. Oops, sorry. We'll choose a time zone. We are here. And so this will be the setup for the first time. And you'll see that we appear to have a well-formed inbox and so on. There's nothing to see yet, sadly. And if we go to, well, actually, let's do this. Let's just go back and let's. So I didn't get much of a chance there, did I? What should we do? Start a new mail. And let's imagine that he wants to mail people in the FIM users group. Hello? FIM, was it FIM info?
You have a search function.
It's not working. Sorry. Not sure why that's not. Well, it's found Bert F, but it's not finding the FIMinfo group, and I'm not sure why. Let's just see what groups we've got here.
Those are different groups.
They
Do you have any groups?
Sorry?
That's a new feature. There's a mailbox.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Why are they not coming through? Okay, we'll take another look at that in a minute. Meanwhile, the groups are also, security groups are also being used to give her appropriate access to SharePoint. So if she goes to SharePoint sites and to... No, I don't want OneDrive. Did I ask for OneDrive? Try that again. Do you get it anyway? There we go. Not that I've got anything against OneDrive. And, okay, so we'll get a different experience here. Now, I'm rather hopeful that she won't have access to everything that's in HR. So there you are, the secret HR documents are not showing up. She's in sales, so of course, or is it he? He's in sales, so secret sales stuff there. I think the important thing is here that this was end-to-end. Okay, so able was not only expressed in AD and able to get access on-premise, not that we've actually proved that point yet, but also able to get access in the cloud right through to O365, having a license in place, everything that's needed. There's been no administration I've had to do. All we've been doing is looking.
And his Salesforce profile and attributes also. So.
Absolutely. So if I now, what am I going to do now? I am now going to get out of here.
While you're doing that, Hugh, the process that you're seeing, it all has a slightly black box feeling to it. We've sort of talked about, well, we've got these things on premise, these interfaces that we can show you what's happening and which agents are running when and what data is moving. And then in the cloud, you sort of have a feeling, well, we've pumped it up into Azure AD, and then stuff happens, and it's a little bit of a sort of black magic thing. There are some very good reports, in fact, that show you what sort of downstream provisioning activity are taking place. So particularly, obviously, if we have some sort of a troubleshooting activity going on, we can see any failures that went into Salesforce, for example, if there are duplicate names or other sorts of issues going on preventing provisioning, that's all thoroughly visible. Hugh might show you that one day, but fundamentally, we like to do a sort of a black box demo to show how smooth and funky it is. But actually, if you need to get into the workings, you can't really influence clearly the technical details of exactly what it's doing to do the provisioning into Salesforce, because that's all built in. But you can certainly see the results of its activity, so that you can actually follow what it's up to.
Okay, so here is where the VMs are handled, and I can't see which it is. There it is. So there's a number of VMs I'm running, and it's not called that. That's not the right one. With a bit of luck, oh, come on. Sure, I clicked you before. There we go. So you'll see that this is where I'm running the FIM box and the AD box. If I connect to the FIM box again, but this time as our new person,
only because we lack real client VMs. If we had some Windows 8 VMs, we'd be connected to a Windows 8 VM right now.
Just laziness, really.
It's just an example. The moment.
We should have worked out a routine we could do.
Reprise our Stand By Your Man number that we used to do.
Yes.
What a scary thought, actually.
Yes, and I'm working today rather like we did that song, without any real notes.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm going to be able A at, so same UPN. I don't quite know what slowed down quite so much, but maybe we'll get there.
There's already an example of the cloud-led philosophy. We're using his cloud UPN on-premise. So he is actually a member of the Litware domain, but because we have populated his UPN out of the cloud, he's logging in using the same UPN in the cloud and on-premise, even though he's in the Litware domain. But he doesn't need to know that. That's the point. He needs to know his one name that he uses everywhere. And he doesn't need to get technical about exactly which domain he's actually in, because we've done the work for him.
Hugh. Not quite sure which bit of it is not running very quickly, but I need to do something about this. Okay, so here he is being logged in. So AD is quite happy that he exists, well-formed account, same UPN, same password, and...
One fine day.
Okay, so what can he do? Well, not a lot actually, as happens, because we haven't set much up, but I suppose what he could do is at least go to, what should we do, localhost.
Or that.
Again? Actually, I'll do FIM/identity management. Identity management. And you never know, we might find that he can get to the FIM portal. And his experience of the FIM portal will be different than we saw before, because he's not an administrator, he's a user, so he gets a limited amount of access. He won't be able to see all the details about everybody. He might be able to list them. He might be able to get to Amy's just basic contact information or anything that we're happy with him seeing, but he certainly can't go around editing this stuff. On the other hand, if he goes and finds himself, we'd expect that he'd have more information and perhaps be able to actually edit his phone number and stuff like that. So that's a different experience. And what I hope we've shown is that we've added a brand new user and it's all come through. And I'm sure you would trust me that if we were to remove him from the HR system, he would cascade through and be removed from everything and so on. Let's just do another couple of things. One is to do the same as we just did, but this time for Denise. So what's I trying to do? I am trying to run that again. And seems to be going a little bit faster. Will be Denise at. Now this is the original HR person, you remember, and now let's imagine that. I just realised I'm in the wrong VM, actually, because we have got a client. So I just remembered I'm in the wrong VM. Forget that. Cancel all that, because I want a copy of Word. Let's do this. Let's use this client here. So we have actually got a client that we can use for some of this. And we'll just do this again. OK, here we go. And Denise. So Denise is working on her laptop or whatever. And she could get access to FIM, and she'd have yet a different experience of FIM, being an HR person, get more access. But perhaps she goes to My Apps. We won't do that, thank you. Perhaps she goes to My Apps. Try again. And we'll have her sign in as Denise at Oxford Demo. And perhaps she goes from here to SharePoint. And finds her way through to, and there's got to be a quicker way of doing this than I'm doing, but finds her way through to the HR site. Now, one of the things that you can do very easily now is turn on RMS and start protecting documents. And I'm not going to do much on this because there's going to be stuff on RMS tomorrow, and I don't want to dilute anybody's talk or anything. But just to show you something fairly simple, so we'll go to the HR team site here. She has access to these confidential documents. If we load this one up, then with a bit of luck, assuming that it has been protected, and I failed to check this morning when I was running through things, with a bit of luck we'll see, yeah, so this is a restricted document, and there you can see the effect of RMS. The RMS bits have been loaded here with Word, and so she's got access. It's protected in various ways. First of all, she had to be able to get to it. Secondly, the permissions and so on will be limited. It is also worth another thing that she could do. There are some public documents here. So she might look at these and say, oh, I'd like to share this public document here with somebody else, with perhaps with me. We might as well choose me. Okay, so it says currently shared with lots of people, but we'll share it with somebody else. So let's see if we can do that. See if we can make that work. So we're going to say share it with, this is my email address. Now, although it all looks like it's Oxford Computer Group, it isn't. The demo is a completely independent tenancy. So, oops.
You really have a hyphen in your name.
Does that look right to you? Yeah, it's probably about right. So I'm going to share this with you. I have a document to share with you.
Or something.
Or I could even spell it partly right, couldn't I?
Don't give up the day job.
Okay, so we'll share that. And that's going to send an email to me in Outlook, which I carefully closed down just before the demo, so I'll fire that up again. And along with all the other embarrassing emails that are likely to come through in the next few minutes, there might be one inviting me for this.
This is what we were talking about in my session yesterday, the onboarding of an external collaboration partner. You could simply share with an external person, and you don't need to go through a lot of heavy lifting to get the encryption or the decryption keys to them for the document, because Microsoft have basically fixed it so that you don't. So it's a great deal easier. The process is a great deal more convenient. It's updating this folder.
Funny enough, I thought I saw it. I thought I saw the Denise Smith. Sorry?
I think it's in there. I think it's maybe under Microsoft.
There it is. With its poor punctuation and everything. Yes, it was there. I just was being impatient. So I have a document to share with you. So let's open that document. And I'm going to be using that document in 0365 Word. Sorry, that can't be found. Oh, that's good. Can't be found in... It's worked perfectly well earlier on.
I have a feeling you didn't have a hyphen in your email address before.
Say again?
I think it's because your browser
had a session going.
Identity.
Okay. So I need to log in. Yes?
I think you have to first log out. I don't know who are you logged in on the cloud service?
Right, I see what you're saying.
Okay, no, the right identity.
I'll close it and try it again anyway. There you go.
Ta-da! Okay, so that worked. That's all that's in it. That's nothing exciting. What else should we be showing? We've pretty much done what we intended.
Well, you could go and look at some of the reports that we talked about. You could show the provisioning reports down into Salesforce, for example. You've got some authentication reports, because we've been talking about the need for it not just to be a black box. It needs to feel like a black box to the users, but the admins still need their hands on some real data. That's novel.
All right, try that again.
You're on an ADFS screen, but you're hitting an onmicrosoft.com account.
Okay, we'll get there in the end. I think I just had the wrong password. Let's just close these windows. Okay, and what are we doing? We're just going to look at
some reports.
Provisioning reports.
So you've been hearing some of these things. The anomalous activity reports that Alex was talking about earlier on, coupled with some pretty heavy machine learning that they've been developing and continue to develop. You can see the list there. I'm going to read it out, but multiple geographies in particular. My logins are quite interesting because I log in Germany and then here a day later, and so the system will show you exactly where it thinks you logged in from. Your mileage with mobile phone and mobile data may vary because it depends where they actually emerge into the public web. But generally speaking, you get some pretty good numbers around, for example, estimated travel time between the 2 points of access, for example. It actually tells you what that might have been and the amount of time between the logons. So it's trying to detect either illegally shared identities or, of course, stolen identities that are being misused. And then, so that's kind of anomalous stuff. Okay, so now we're seeing activities. This is more operational logging about who's been doing what. This gives us the ability, for example, with password reset, if we are in the unfortunate position to have to justify our expenditure on this sort of thing, then it would be quite useful to be able to say, I can see password resets coming through, and these would have cost us X amount of dollars at the service desk. So clearly we want to be able to pull these sorts of operational reports. And there are new reports coming out all the time. If we'd done this presentation as we did about 5 months ago, the list was about half as long. So there are new reports coming all the time.
So there's Able having authenticated, and Bert was the one I tested with earlier today just to make sure that at least most of it was working. What else we got? We could look at
There's
the group.
Yeah, account provisioning activity down there. You'll see this is what I was talking about in the direction of Salesforce. We should see Able being provisioned into Salesforce. This is in preview, but it's working fine.
And I don't see Able. Oh, there he is. Okay, so it's been attempting to put some other people in and failing. There's probably a very good reason for that, but I don't know what it is.
Well, there's an errors report as well. It'll tell you, but it may well be that they were, since there are test accounts.
I happen to know they're all not part of my demos, but whereas these
problem,
two are.
Right?
Not our problem. Somebody else's demo.
I think you'll find that they exist in a different Salesforce tenant. We've been playing with a different Salesforce tenant, and they've been synchronized into that one. So there.
What's the time of the next thing? Are we just 5 minutes to go?
I think so.
Anyway.
So, last thing we might look at there.
Is Todd and Peter after you?
In 5 minutes, I thought so. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. So we're just about there. So I think we'll draw that to a close. Hopefully, giving you a feeling that it is real. This stuff works together. Obviously this is a little bit raw in places because it's just us messing about with stuff. But
I think the point is not just us. There are other people messing around with stuff in these tenants.
Yeah,
so
that's the problem.
Work.
Yeah. But, so trying to get everybody not to do anything for a while. Yeah.
So roughly how much time and effort was put into making the demo?
To making the demo?
Yeah.
Shall we tell them the brutal truth? We got some scripts. We got some scripting, and these are demo apps and stuff. Of course, we got some of our devs to put in some time, but that doesn't really count. The actual demo, the embarrassing truth is that we put it together pretty much overnight, just before the last time we did this presentation. Not last night.
It's existed for 6-7 months. There have been 7 of them that are going to have our hands in.
Messing around with it. I mean, there are bits that didn't work and now they do because features have been switched on and things like that. It's definitely person days of effort.
Yeah, the installations and
where it was broken and no one was in it.
Yeah. But I would say it's not a lot. I mean, it's not like somebody has to sit down and write heavy code. There's a few bits of code. There's the odd PowerShell script in there. And there's the little web app, which only took apparently somebody half a day to do. So, yeah.